Oh, there you are. Honey, why are you on your knees?
Oh, honey, I was down here, I was praying for Jesus to forgive Carpondro breeders again, but then it really dawned on me as we get into video number 45, there are two really huge things happening in the herp world right now, and I'm on my knees because I want to beg, literally that's how important this is for me, I want to beg my loyal viewers and well-educated viewers for two things before we get into this week's video. The first is, you guys all know what's going on with US Ark Florida and Chris Coffey. You've seen that whole scene with the animals getting killed, and I was thinking about it in my own different approach, and I was thinking to myself, the only thing worse, as a law-abiding citizen, if somebody came into my house and killed my animals, and there was nothing I can do about it, the only thing worse than that is if I knew I didn't have the community behind me to help support me. So what I'm going to pray for you guys to do, is beg for you guys to do, is to please just go to US Ark. I'll put a link on the bottom of this video. I know we're all in different financial positions. Some of us can give, some of us can't, but even if you could just join US Ark. If you're already a member of US Ark, it doesn't mean you're a member of US Ark Florida. I should say join US Ark Florida. Numbers are more important now than ever, just to show solidarity and that there are numbers behind US Ark Florida. So if you could please go ahead and join US Ark Florida. That is super important right now to make sure this travesty never happens again. Hey, the second thing I'm going to beg you guys to do is, if you haven't done it already, Brian Barczyk, he's dealing with cancer, super serious illness he's dealing with. And I was thinking to myself, we all know what's going on with Brian. We've seen the videos, we've seen all the posts on Facebook and Instagram. And I was thinking to myself, what can I possibly do at this point to kind of get you, to encourage you guys to maybe donate if you haven't done so already? The only thing I could think of to say to you at this point is, look, if you were dealing with a really serious illness and you needed support, your family needed support, whether Brian knew you or not, I promise you he would be the first guy to donate to your GoFundMe. Please trust me on that. I've known Brian for 30 years, and I just know him, and I guarantee he'd be the first guy to donate. So if you haven't done so already, I'll put a link down in the description for Brian's GoFundMe, and if you could donate anything, it would be tremendously appreciated by, I know, Brian and his entire family. Now I'm going to attempt to get up here.
Want some help, honey?
Nope, I'm fine, honey. You just call 911 and grab me. It's like 17 Advil. We could jump into video number 45. Hey guys, welcome to video number 45. And in today's video, what I'm going to do is we're going to get into feeding baby arboreals. And as I mentioned in the thumbnail, there's going to be one item here, one key trick that I'm going to tell you guys. And I don't care if you've been breeding arboreals for many years, you're brand new. I can pretty much promise you probably never heard this before. I don't do clickbait, I promise. So this is going to be something you've never heard of before. We're going to get into feeding for the first time, establishing baby emeralds, baby chondros. We're going to get into that. I also, I just thought I would take this girl out because this is a Michael Beach. Maybe you guys know him. He's a long time breeder. He's out on the West Coast. And this girl's gravid. She's currently loaded with eggs. But what's so cool about her is we could trace her genetics back, being a pure jungle, back to the early 90s. Directly with this animal goes back to the early 90s. And the reason I wanted to breed her so badly this year, Michael had made her available last year. I think she's about 6 or 7 years old, but here's what's really cool about her. She's about 7 feet. She's a huge animal for a jungle, especially for a pure jungle. Her head is pretty damn big, as you could see. Her color is not as bright yellow or jet black as I prefer, but what I did is I bred her to my male, who's just jet black. I've showed him in other videos. He's bright yellow, so my goal with this line is I want to be able to produce just really large jungle carpets. And by the way, her temperament, she's super sweet. Even though she's gravid right now, even if she's not gravid, she's always super sweet, always handleable. So my goal with this line is to breed as big of jungles as I could breed with the best coloration, with the best temperament I could breed. So I'm really excited about this girl, and hopefully I'm going to get a nice clutch of eggs from her. So why don't we jump into 3 really good feeding tips for you guys trying to get baby arboreals established. So I want to give you guys 3 feeding tips today for establishing baby arboreals. And whether, like I said, you're a seasoned arboreal breeder or a beginner, I hope at least one of these 3 things you're never going to have heard of before. I promise you on that. The third tip I'm going to give you actually could prevent you from killing an entire clutch of chondros. And I'm going to tell you a quick story about that when we get to number 3. Before we get started with that, look at this sucker. It does not stop dripping. Anyway, I want to show you guys a new toy I just bought. First off, we all start out with the water bottles, right? We spray the water bottles, we could spray our babies down, and then we move that. When the collection gets bigger, we get one of these pumps, and we just pump down and mist everything. I'm going to show you guys a new toy I just got. This is made by cobalt. You could buy them anywhere, and I got to tell you, as my collection grew, and I have just a lot more, more adult, larger cages. I just bought this thing. It's a rechargeable battery. Holds about 3 gallons of water. I bought it. I want to say it was at Walmart. I think I paid get it at Home Depot, any of those places. I think I paid like $80 for it. But it is awesome. It saved me so much time and so much energy. My arm is not killing me at the end of my normal maintenance anymore. And like I said, you just charge the battery, you spray, puts out a nice fine mist. I can get through my entire collection in about 15 minutes, spray down all my enclosures, which I do about every 5 days. And then after about 5 days, it dries out, I respray it. Anyway, if you're looking for something to make your life easier, that's reasonably priced, this Cobalt sprayer. It changed my life. Okay, so let's get into feeding tip number 1. And this feeding tip was brought to me by my buddy Steve Volk, V-O-L-K. Steve is AmazonBasins.com. And he's a long-time breeder. I'd say between Steve Volk and Ed Marino, those are the two big basin guys. They're both awesome guys. They're both friends. And so anyway, this tip came from Steve Volk. So what does he do? So first off, really quickly, babe, can you come in a little closer? Just want to show. Guys, when we talk about what's more difficult to establish, baby green tree pythons or baby emerald tree boas, check this out. All these animals, these Amazon basin emeralds, let's take this one for example. This animal right now is coming up on 2.5 months old, about 10 weeks old. It has 2 meals in it, okay? This animal over here, it's a baby green tree python. This animal is about a month old. It also has 2 meals in it. You guys see the size difference between an Amazon basin baby, or I should say just a northern or an emerald tree boa baby and a green tree python baby, the difference in size. I mean, this thing is literally about 25, a baby green tree python is about 25% the size of an emerald tree boa. So when we talk about, what's more challenging to establish, I am not taking anything away from emerald tree boa breeders, because believe me, emerald tree boa babies present their own set of challenges when establishing them. Just based on size difference alone, I got to tell you, I've established, honestly, over 200 baby chondros in my breeding career. And I've, between basins and northerns, I've probably established, 30, 40 babies. These babies I'm establishing right now, the Amazon basins, I just got 20 of those in, 13 in one litter, 7 in the other. And although, like I said, challenging, and they tested my patience, still, just because of the size difference, so much easier than baby green tree python. So let's leave it at that. So what's feeding tip number 1? It's going to be specific to baby emerald tree boas, and that breeding tip is when you're trying to feed live to establish your baby emerald tree boas. Personally, I start with frozen thawed ahead of live prey when I'm establishing babies, only because with frozen thawed prey, I can heat it up. I can put under a light. I can get it really hot, because I can tell you that emerald tree boas respond just so well, even better than chondros, to heat. So you can really get frozen thawed prey item heated up. So that's why I start with frozen thawed ahead of live. But let's say we're going with live. What are we going to do? We're keeping our babies, all perches by the reptile perch, David Brahms, by the way. Whether it's babies, subadults, or adults, all my perches are by David Brahms at the reptile perch. And I love Dave. He's awesome. And his perches make my life so much easier when establishing babies. So again, let's talk about, we're going to feed a live fuzzy mouse or a live hopper mouse. We're going to try to feed that to our baby emerald tree boa for the first time. And again, when I say it's not a pinky mouse we're going with emeralds, we're going with either a hopper mouse or a fuzzy mouse. We need movement, guys. That's really important. So, but instead of just taking the fuzzy mouse or hopper mouse and dropping it into the shoebox, by the way, I always take out the water bowl when I feed live prey, because I don't want it going into the water bowl. When I come down in the morning, it's drowned in the water bowl to feed it the whole purpose. But instead of taking the live hopper or fuzzy mouse and just putting it into the shoebox with the emerald tree boa and having the fuzzy mouse run to the furthest corner and hide, and then the animal doesn't find it all night, and it's just kind of hiding when you wake up in the morning. Very simple fix, thanks to my friend Steve Volk. I take an 8-ounce deli cup, round always, of course. I just put the live fuzzy mouse, live hopper mouse in the deli cup, and then I put the baby emerald on top of the deli cup like that. The animal, just because there's no corners in it, the fuzzy or hopper, you'll get a lot of movement in that cup, and then I just take the whole drawer, put it back in the rack, I come back overnight. Now, it's right underneath the baby, it's just more visible, it just elicits more of a feeding response, and I'm just telling you, so many times I know for a fact that when I woke up in the morning and a live hopper or live fuzzy was gone, it was because it was in a cup and not just running loose, and it just makes the process that much easier. So feeding tip number 1, specific to baby emerald tree boas, is if you're going to offer live prey, don't put the live prey at them, just let it running around in the shoebox. Put it in a round deli cup, put it right underneath your baby northern, and it has a much better chance of finding it and striking it and eating it by the time the morning comes. Feeding tip number 2, guys. This one's going to be specific again to emerald tree boas. Okay, in this case, again, I have Amazon basin babies out here. By the way, I just uploaded, about 2 weeks ago, I uploaded 12 Amazon basin babies for sale on Morph Market. And within 3 days, you guys bought 10 of them. So thank you so much. I seriously appreciate your business and your trust. So thank you for that. There are still 2 more on there that are gorgeous animals. They're low white animals, which will get more white, I promise you, in the coming sheds. So if you're looking for basin emeralds, please go check out GS Reptiles on Morph Market. Check them out. Okay, so what is feeding tip number 2? Well, we all know pythons and boas, they love birds. But as a green tree python breeder, I never really had the luxury of being able to offer birds to my baby green tree pythons to get them started. The reason being, baby green tree pythons are too small. Instead, we use chick scent, right? We take rodents, we wash the scent off the rodent, and we scent it with chick down. That's what we do. But with emeralds, it's completely a different story because they're so much larger and they're able to take, which is feeding tip number 2, baby quail. Now look, I want to be perfectly clear. I'm not saying to go to baby quail as a default. I would try with rodents first. I try rat pinkies first, and then I go with mouse fuzzies, all frozen thawed first, get them nice and heated. If they don't eat that, then I would try live, hopper mice or fuzzy mice. And I would continue to try that over a couple weeks' time until the babies eat. If they don't eat, though, and you start to get nervous, you're like, oh my God, they're starting to get thin. I really wish I want to get a meal in them. Instead of even considering force feeding them, all you got to do, guys, as I've learned, is get yourself some baby quail. Let me just show you the size of the baby quail. It is about the size, there's a few of them, they're about the size of a fuzzy mouse is what they're the size on. And by the way, I get these from my friend Jason Hood, Hood. I'll put a link to Jason on the bottom. He sells them for about $1 a piece. He just started selling them. I got to tell you, his customer service is ridiculous. He's over the top. Like, he checked on them after they came in to make sure they were frozen and everything, and they're super clean. There's no defecation or anything. So awesome first experience. And again, I had one baby basin out of 20. I had one that I could not get going, and here was the problem. I was going away for a week, and I was like, God, I'd really love to get a meal into this animal that just wanted nothing to do with food at all. So I tried one of these baby quail. I was talking to Jason about it, and defrosted it, and literally, guys, in about 5 seconds, that animal grabbed the baby quail. So what's the challenge of feeding baby quail? Well, they're going to eat them, so that's not the challenge at all. I felt so good at least getting a meal into a baby animal that hadn't been eating prior. The challenge hopefully will not be then converting the baby quail over to rodents. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think it's more of a challenge if you have an animal that only takes live, getting it to then take frozen thawed. That could be really challenging at times. And I think it's going to be less challenging because the baby quail, even though it's a bird, it is frozen thawed. And I think it's just going to be a lot easier getting now that animal. After I get a few baby quail into it, then I'm going to convert over to frozen thawed rodents. I'll wash it down. I'll scent it with chick down. I'll scent it down with quail. And I'd be willing to bet that animal grabs the rodent scented pretty quickly. And I'll keep you guys posted on that. So again, if you have baby emeralds, and especially if you bought a baby emerald from somebody online, especially a lot of these babies are being sold as, feeders, especially from these middlemen, these brokers. A lot of times they're not feeding. You start to get nervous. They're not taking rodents. I am telling you, baby quail, they will hit instantly. And again, I'll put Jason's information on the bottom of this video. And that would be feeding tip number 2, baby quail. They will make your life so much easier when it comes to baby emerald tree boas. Okay, guys, here is feeding tip number 3, and the most important feeding tip I'm going to give you today. And this one actually, if you do not do this, you have a pretty good chance, actually, you can potentially kill an entire clutch of chondros. I know that sounds pretty dramatic, but I'm actually going to give you a real-life example of how that happened. And by the way, I want to give fully credit. Feeding tip number 3, the one I'm about to tell you, comes from our own Greg Maxwell. If you don't know who Greg is, well, you're probably newer in the hobby. Greg is a legend in the hobby, and he's the author of The Complete Chondro. This book is now out of print. So what is feeding tip number 3? Well, we all know when we're trying to establish baby green tree pythons, oftentimes, or even baby emerald tree boas, oftentimes we will scent the prey item with chick down, right? That's what we do, or chicken feathers or chick down. And what we tend to do, myself, I am guilty of this, when I am not using it, it sits in my drawer in my snake room, and I leave it there for months on end until I'm ready to use it. And that was the problem with Greg Maxwell back in the late 90s. Greg told me a story, and by the way, he's completely fine with me sharing the story. He was really open about it. Back in the late 90s, Greg was using chick down to scent a bunch of prey items for about 20 to 30 baby chondros, and after feeding those animals pinky mice scented with chick down, every one of those animals died. I don't know if it was specifically over the next couple of days or next couple of weeks, but the bottom line is he had 20 to 30 baby chondros literally die after feeding those animals, those prey items scented with chick down. Why did that happen? Greg does not know specifically why it happened, but what we do know is that most likely it was because if you take chick down and you leave it in your room at about 68 to 70 degrees and there's any moisture in the bag whatsoever, it breeds bacteria. and then you're taking the chick scenting, loaded with bacteria, and putting on the pinky mouse. Now think about it, a pinky mouse for a baby green tree python. Look at the size of a baby green tree python. This animal right now is about, I'm going to say this one has 2 meals, and it's probably about 14 grams something. But even the slightest bit of bacteria, and what Greg thinks it possibly could have been was salmonella, by the way. An animal this size has no chance. It's going to go through its system pretty quickly and kill it pretty quickly, as we learned. So look, I'm being completely honest with you guys. I've never, ever put chick down in my freezer before I use it, but I promise you I will now. I will always do that, and that was a great warning story from Greg. It really happened. I mean, and it really sucks. I'm sure it's happened to other people over the years too. Maybe they didn't know why it exactly happened. So again, when you have chick down, if you're not using it, chicken feathers, make sure you keep it in the freezer. I would just take it out just maybe for a very short period of time, maybe, I don't know, half hour or so before you're ready to use it. And then after you're done using it, you can stick it back in the freezer for later use. And while we're on the topic of scenting pinky mice with chick down, something I always do, I've talked about in other videos, when I scent a pinky mouse, and by the way, I'm talking about emeralds too, right? We're talking about conjures, we're talking about emeralds, we're talking about scenting. I take the prey item before I scent it with chick down, and while the prey item is still frozen, I take this 7th generation hand soap, right? It's free and clean, it's fragrance free, it's colorless, it's no dyes, and there's no bad chemicals in here, and I wash the prey item. And then after I wash the prey item, I rinse it really well, and as it's defrosting, I actually put the prey item in the chick down for a few hours and let it defrost, so therefore it's only almost marinating in the chick down, and then I offer it to my either my chondro or my emerald. And the reason you do that is you're washing that commercial smell of the rodent off of it, and it's easier to scent it with the chick down. So again, feeding tip number 3, and I hope you guys all listen to that one. I think it's super important. And Greg Maxwell, thank you so much again for allowing me to share that. I think it's really important. Keep your chick down in your freezer until you're ready to use it. It's an almost 3-year-old female Amazon basin emerald. She has a complete stripe on her. She's almost more blue than green. She's actually gorgeous. Let me show you her front. And again, she's on this is the Reptile Perch by David Brahms, as I mentioned earlier. I just love his perches. Anyway, hey guys, thank you so much for watching video number 45. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so, or like my videos, or comment on my videos. I love when you guys comment on my videos. I think I try to answer almost every single comment on my video. And as always, USARK, they need our support now more than ever. And have an amazing couple weeks, and I will see you guys shortly for video number 46.
Who has the best YouTube channel? Me